UNF for hosting us today. We've got a great group of folks. We're going to have a conversation about some opportunities for our kids. We have obviously the Education Commissioner, Richard Corcoran. We have Charlie Ward, who I don't think anyone in Florida has, doesn't know who Charlie is. Was a epic Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, had a great career in basketball. The Knicks, I think he's the only Heisman Trophy winner to ever play in the NBA. Probably won't be another one. So just an outstanding career. We have Eugene Lamb, who's the chair of the TCC Board of Trustees. Eugene used to be on the Florida High School Athletic Association. Charlie's actually on that board now. We have Lito Shepard, who is a football coach, big Gator, did great in the NFL, was first team All-Pro. We have Kyler Hall, who's the head coach of Swanee High School football team. And then, of course, the mayor of Jacksonville, Lenny Curry, who's been a big advocate for opportunities for our youth. When the COVID-19 hit in March, of course, we went to distance learning, which obviously a lot of parents had to deal with, and that was a really, really significant change. We've talked a lot about the academic results of that and the implications from having done that and the need to give parents an option for this coming school year to have the face-to-face instruction. And I think the parental choice is really the bedrock of the state's approach. If a parent prefers distance learning, by all means, they have every right to opt for distance learning, but for parents that really want to have that face-to-face instruction, we want every parent in Florida to have options for that. And so the academic component has been critical. What you lose in distance learning is something that, as much as we put effort into it in Florida and did a good job, it's just not the same. Also, when we went to distance learning, the activities and the sports stopped for kids in middle school and high school. And those are moments that they're not going to be able to get back, particularly the seniors. So as we look to what's coming up on this school year, I think it's important, I think it's critical that we have boys and girls sports available for our students. And again, if a parent chooses to not have their kids play in any of these endeavors, that is totally fine, and that's a parental choice. But I know a lot of parents really want to have the opportunity to allow their sons and daughters to compete and play. And Florida has been phenomenal in terms of opportunities with athletics. I mean, we've obviously got great football, we've got great girls soccer, volleyball, we're great in baseball, all these things. So many great people have come out of playing athletics in Florida. Whether that means you go to college because of it, whether that means you end up winning a Heisman Trophy or playing in the NFL, all those things are great. But even at a basic level, understanding discipline, understanding hard work, the mentorship that you get for coaches is really, really important to the development of our young people. And so I just, as governor, want to say, I'm standing with our coaches and our athletes. We need to have them back. I know that they're planning on starting the football season here in a couple weeks. And I look forward to doing that because I think that this is something that's very, very critical to our young people. And I just think back with me growing up playing sports, if I didn't have that, I would have been a big void. I think it made me a better student. I think it absolutely made me better able to work hard, not just through high school, but I was in college, having to balance playing baseball with schoolwork. By the time I remember when I was in law school, everyone was so like, oh my gosh, like I was at Harvard Law School, oh my gosh, it's so tough, all this stuff. I never had more time on my hands then because I was so used to working out, practicing, playing. Obviously, I worked jobs and doing academics. I didn't have baseball anymore, so I had more time on my hands than I had ever had, and I think it helped me well. I think it's really served me well in the military. That structure was very natural to me because of athletics, and then I think on and on it goes. So these are things that really have a lasting impact, and I just think we have to understand that the cancellation of the sports that has huge effects. And so we don't want to relive that because I think that it would be depriving our students of opportunity. So I want to give the folks here an opportunity to weigh in. So Charlie, I know you're coaching basketball. You've been able to do so. Charlie, obviously Heisman Trophy winner, NBA. He also got drafted in baseball twice, and he wasn't even playing baseball in college, and they drafted him twice. So he has been somebody who not only has achieved great things, but he's given back to his communities as a coach and doing community activities. And so really, I think someone that we're proud of in the state of Florida. So Charlie, floor is yours.
I appreciate it, Governor. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my thoughts on where we are and what we're doing as a head coach, also as a parent. I've seen where we are today is definitely a challenging time. And one of the things I know with with the group that I coach, we've been able to do some things virtually over the course of the pandemic to be able to help our kids stay engaged at the end of the school year. And then we had an opportunity during the course of the summer to get a few workouts in, a couple weeks in, workout before we shut down for a couple of weeks. One of the things that I noticed over the course of our time during the summer was our kids were still working out. They were still playing in tournaments, and those things were still going on. And I just, I'm a big advocate for, if that is happening, why can't it happen all in one place where they're being supervised or have structure underneath the coach's watch, where we can keep our hands on them, almost like a bubble per se, very similar to what the NBA is doing and all the other major league sports are doing. They have an opportunity to keep their hands and keep information in front of their players because they're all in one place. Before the season started, they had people all over the place, and we don't know what they're doing, where they are as far as who they're with, but we do know when they are working out with us, we know where they are and who they're working out with. And so I just think it's important when we start looking at the big scheme of things to be able to have our group of players to be able to share information with them, whether it's preventative measures on how we can become healthier or treatments, but more importantly, just to be able to communicate with them face to face and have access, because virtually we can do only so much, but when we have them all together, I think it's very, very important piece that goes missing a lot of times.
Well, think back when you were in Thomasville, if this pandemic had hit maybe during your season, to not have had the opportunity to play. What would that have meant for you if that were something that was taken away?
Well, I was from a small town, first of all, so we kind of knew each other. Secondly, there was no social media or virtual learning opportunities, so we would have probably struggled when I was in high school. Today we do have access for virtual learning, those types of things, but just being a student athlete definitely taught me a lot about teamwork, how to relate to one another, discipline. The discipline for us to be able to share with our guys, this is what we need for you guys to do, and to be able to hold them accountable. That's been one of the toughest things virtually we've had trouble with, is being able to hold our kids accountable for their actions. Because to them, they say, what are you going to do if I am not doing what I'm supposed to do virtually? But I do know if we have them in our sites or with us, there is some form of accountability. There are ways that we were able to work around it, but I just think it would have been tough if we would have gone through something like this. One, not really having virtual opportunities, but two, just the camaraderie, being able to relate to one another. Of course, we have FaceTime and all these different social media outlets to be able to connect. But I just do believe that if this would have happened during my time, we would have found a way to continue to get together in some form of fashion. And so if that is the case, then I don't see why there would have been a big issue if we would just been under the structure of our coaches.
Well, thanks, Charlie. Lito Shepherd, UF legend. He was all pro. I think you were first team all pro and the Pro Bowl in the NFL. Not very many people are able to accomplish that. So that's just the top of the heap. And obviously here in Northeast Florida, people are very proud of what you've been able to accomplish. So, speak just about, your thoughts on youth sports and what it meant to you and what do you think we need to do going forward?
Definitely. Hello, everybody. I definitely am appreciated of being a part of the panel and just speaking from my father, coach, and just sports advocate point of view. And to piggyback off a lot what you guys said, I mean, sports is and will continue to be a key pivotal part of our community growth, of our country's growth, and us as individuals. And I look at the kids in our communities today, and we all are affected in different ways. But sports has been and always will be that merger, that way to grasp hold to attention. And it teaches you so many things. And also, with the mentorship parts that you guys mentioned, having, your hands on these kids on a daily basis, it means a lot for our communities. From the time this whole pandemic started, I mean, we have seen how kids in our communities have been affected. The ones that couldn't finish their last year high school seasons out. Some of those kids missed out on scholarships. Some of them have to prolong, do different things to, make it to that next level of education. And, we've seen a lot of the negatives that come behind taking away sports. And, obviously I'm no doctor, but I think we're in a position to where at least our kids are safe enough and are healthy enough to continue to progress with minor major issues, if I'm not mistaken. And I think when you look at the pros behind everything that come behind opening and continuing sports, I think it will be a bonus for not only our communities, but for the country in itself. So I'm definitely an advocate for it and am here to hopefully come up with some creative ways to be able to continue to do so.
So you were obviously a very hot recruit when you were in high school, but to not have, like if people were in those shoes, right now 17 going here, and they don't have the opportunity, if they wouldn't have the opportunity to compete, I think we're going to be fine in Florida, but if say you're not, some state sports, sports helps people expand opportunities. I mean, you probably played with people that ended up, getting a college education because, they got recruited to go to a school. So what would it mean for some of the opportunities for some of our if they weren't able to compete in terms of advancing to college and having other opportunities?
Well, we're definitely going to be stunting some of our less privileged students' growth in that aspect. I mean, we all know how important sports are getting to the next level of education for a lot of us and a lot of our communities. And when you take that away, I mean, you're taking opportunity away. And, I don't know the numbers on that, but I know it has already affected some communities already. And I think if we want to continue to do the things that we can to help our kids continue to grow and mature and in a positive way, I think sports is definitely vital for that. So.
Great. Well, thanks a lot. Eugene Lamb was on the Florida High School Athletic Association board, the chair of the Tallahassee TCC Board of Trustees, and his son Brian is on the Board of Governors. Brian grew up in Florida, but his job has taken him to Ohio. We want Brian back in Florida soon, so we're going to keep doing that. So Eugene, why don't you talk about some of the things that you think are important in this regard?
If I would tell you everything that I know about myself that got me to this table, you wouldn't believe it. I grew up in a little small place in northwest Florida called Midway. It's 10 miles west of Tallahassee, right on Highway 90. I-10 is also there. That's where I was born, raised, and grew up at. I went to high school in a little place about 10 miles on the bus every day to a place called Havana, Florida. That's where I went to high school. I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to college. I went to a little small school beautiful school, and I always tell my friends I went to a real school. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. I came out of school, I'm from the old school. I came out in 1971. But in 1967, 68, I was a freshman. Coming home after my freshman year, I wanted a job. People were used to working during that time. I didn't stand on the corner asking people for $1. I wanted a job. So I left Midway, which is 6 miles from Tallahassee Community College. I jogged all the way from home over to the community college, asked for a job, and they gave me a job. I was a helper for the brick mason. So I helped build Tallahassee Community College. After I came out of college, I was coaching for 25 years in the Tallahassee area, 1 year in Daytona Beach at Mainland Senior High School, but most of my year was in Leon County, which was in Tallahassee. I was appointed to the Board of Trustees at Tallahassee Community College 12 years ago. I have gone through 3 governors, I believe, including Governor DeSantis has appointed me to the Board of Trustees at Tallahassee Community College. Now, I'm saying that to say this. There's no way I would be sitting to this table if it wasn't for athletics. And I have to say specifically for basketball, because that's what I played. I don't know where I would be now. Would I have my 2 children? Would I have Brian Lamb or would I have Rolanda Lamb now if I had not gone to college on a basketball scholarship? That's what inspired me to go to school, because before I got in 10th grade, I didn't go to school that much. I was working somewhere in the green. During the school year, we had what you call green. We were cutting green, pulling green, and all that kind of stuff. And during the summer, after school, you guys didn't never see this. I was in the tobacco field in North Florida. That's what I was doing when school was out during the school year. But during the school year, I was working in the green field because I was helping my parents all I could to help pay the bills and put some grocery in the house. So my 10th grade year, I started playing basketball for a coach by the name of Vernell Ross. That's what saved me. He did, my high school coach. I started playing for him. I went to school every day during my 10th grade, 11th, and 12th grade year. I made All-State 2 years, my junior and senior year. I was the first basketball player from my high school to make All-State. And I was so happy to be able to go to college because didn't many allow during my time kids went to college from Midway. And here I am going to college. So I came back home. Good old boy, went to college, come back home. And I have had nothing but success since I came back to Midway and worked in Tallahassee for about 25 to 30 years in Tallahassee. And it was all because of athletics. So I think about the young people now. We have 800 kids, schools. We have 800 schools in Florida under the Florida High School Athletic Association. 1/3 of those schools are private schools. 2/3 of those schools are public schools. I put myself in a senior position. How would I feel if I wasn't given the opportunity to at least try to do something for my life so I can go to college? So we need to do everything we can to get our young people in school, to get an education, to further their education. We don't want to see them on the corner. I don't want to see them up under a tree. I want to see them on a job, working somewhere, earning a living so they can support their family. That's what I want to see. And this is why I have worked so hard since I've been out of college. I raised my 2 children. I think I raised them right. I raised them by the Bible, and you can't go wrong there. So I want to see the young people not on the corner, not up under the oak tree. I want to see them on a job working. But in order to do that, they need to get an education. And those young people those young women and young men who have athletic ability, I want to see them use their ability in high school and continue in college and come out with something in their mind so they can get a good job and raise their family. That's what I want to see.
Well, that was awesome, and I don't know both your kids. I do know Brian, as we mentioned, and obviously a great guy. Not that this is the only end-all, be-all to success, but I know he's making a great living. Certainly making probably a heck of a lot more than I am, which is great. And he's been very successful, and we're proud of his service as well, and proud of you for all your service to the state. So thank you very much, Coach Hall. You want to talk about Suwannee High School? I know you guys, have probably been working out in one way or another. Now the formal season practices will start in a couple weeks. You guys seem like you're ready to go. Seems like the kids are ready to go. So talk about it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor, and it's privilege to be here amongst this great group on this panel. I grew up the son of a coach. My dad coached high school sports for 41 years, football and track. So I have been around this game my entire life. Grew up in the locker rooms, on the sideline, in coaches' meetings, and halftime on the buses. So this is how I grew up. I am sitting here because of the game of football and athletics. Obviously, it goes without saying that the health and safety of our kids is first and foremost. We want to create a safe environment. But they are going to find something to do, whether it's at school or if there's no school, no sports, they're going to find something to do. We hope that it will be something positive and constructive, but that is not always the case. I've talked to coaches across the state where in their towns, whether it's a small town or a big city, that they've seen crime rates go up. They've seen trouble that has started to take place because there is nothing structured, or hasn't been nothing structured for these kids to do. This game has opened up so many doors for myself. Again, I talked about my dad being a coach and growing up. I grew up watching Charlie Ward. I wanted to be a Seminole because of Charlie Ward. I grew up watching Lito Shepherd. Actually played against him. I was able to go on and play at Florida State. And from there, the doors and opportunities that were opened because of this game and because of the great people that I've been able to build relationships have really just created a lot of opportunities for myself, and that is what is at stake for these young men right now. If there are no high school athletics, and I'm speaking particularly right now for football because that's what's coming up, that is going to crush a lot of these kids. It's going to crush a lot of these kids. I have a young man right now that has a full scholarship. He's committed, so he's good, regardless if we play football or not. We suppose that it's going to be okay. But he texted me last night, and we're just talking. He said, "Coach, I'm struggling. Like I need football. I need to be back around my boys. I need to be back around my coaches." And this is a kid that has a lot together. He's academically set. He's a high character kid. So if this kid that has a lot going for him, if he's struggling at the level that he is, what about the kids that have nothing outside of sports? Because there's a lot of our kids that don't have a father figure at the house. So when they come to school and they're around their teachers and the administration and the coaches, like that's it. Like that's what they love. We tell our kids all the time, man, we love you. Because we don't know if they ever hear that from anybody else. But we make sure that we're going to take care of them. We're going to hold accountability that Charlie was talking about. We're going to have a disciplined structure that they can look forward to coming to every day. We're going to challenge them. And regardless if they go on and play at the next level, we want these 4 years, and particularly right now for these seniors, and I couldn't imagine going through what they're going through at this time, thinking that, man, I may not be able to play my senior year. Couldn't imagine going through it. So just the mental stress that is being forced upon these kids right now, it's unimaginable. It's hard enough for grown men sitting at this table But just imagine being a high school kid and an athlete that wants to get out there and play and be around his brothers, and be around their coaches and go out and do what they love, and have that realistically about to be taken away. That's a scary thought for these kids. And so we're starting back to school next Monday, and we're one of the fewer counties that are starting back. So we're kind of be the front line going in and stepping back into school into a structured environment. And yes, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of fear. We don't have all the answers, but we know it's not just sitting around, not doing anything structured. Because again, these kids are going to find something to do. And our superintendent said yesterday at our meeting, he said, we need the kids and the kids need us. And that is a fact. We need to see them in the hallways. We need to be able to have conversations face to face. I've done more Zoom meetings than I ever want to do again. I can't Zoom anymore. There needs to be face-to-face interaction, just for the simple standpoint of those relationships. My best friends in the world are guys that I grew up with and played high school sports. Florida State was great, and playing at that level was great, but there's nothing like the high school experience, because a lot of these kids are not going to play past high school. They're not going to have it, but they're going to look back on these years, and they're going to go on and become fathers and husbands and leaders in the community, and a lot of that is developed in the high school setting through athletics. So we're starting back Monday. We're supposed to start practice on August 24th, and there's a lot of pushback trying to go against us starting back. Our kids need that. Our kids need that. Now, me as a coach, I plan on coaching for a long time. So whether it's next year or the following year, sports is going to come back. But for these kids, these seniors, this is it. This is it. So we need sports. We need to start. We need to press forward, do it in a safe and taking the precautions that we can. But these kids need it. They need it on many different levels, and hopefully we can get that done.
Well, thanks a lot, Coach. I think that's I know we're talking more about the high school sports, but we do have a situation coming up where we're going to have a college football season without Florida playing Florida State. And, I just want to say that as the governor, I would like to see a way for that game to happen. I think, this is a very fluid situation, but it's an epic rivalry, and if you're able to play, you're able to play. And so let's give the fans what they want. So we may be working on that over the next couple of weeks. Commissioner of Education, Richard Corcoran.
Thanks, Governor. A lot of great comments from some great former athletes, great former professional athletes, and great coaches. So I don't want to belabor some of the points. I will say, first and foremost, what you have said from the get-go on everything that we've talked about is this is about choice and options. And those choices and those options should be available to every single student athlete. And that's an important reason why we should open up sports. And there's a way to do it just like there is schools where you can do it safely and maintain a safe level of competition during this pandemic. The consequences, I think, is, as you say, there's two paradigms. There's not having high school sports, and having sports at all levels. If you don't have those sports, those consequences are well known. Student athletes' GPAs are higher. Student athletes' graduation rates are higher. Student athletes' attendance rates are higher on every single level, not to mention all those things that they're coached and taught: strategy, teamwork, letting the teammate down, having the pressure of a shot or a play. All of those things teach them life lessons, like Coach Hall just said, that make them better spouses, better community leaders, better business people, better employees and employers. And I think that's important. I also think it's been well said that I have 6 kids, from a sophomore in college, 2 in high school, 1 in middle school, 2 in elementary school. And like you've heard throughout this whole table, all of them, with or without, are engaging in competition sports. That's going on anyway. It's so much better if that could happen under the tutelage and the mentoring of a coach. Every single person who has ever been a student athlete can tell you just the fondest, admirable conversations about how their coach mentored them, how their coach guided them, how their coach steered them in immeasurable ways. So if they're going to engage in that behavior, please, let's let them have that engagement under the tutelage and the mentoring of great men and great women who are out there coaching these kids. And so I just think, Governor, we want, as a father, I can tell you, my oldest son's a high school senior. I can tell you I'm never right anymore. Very rarely am I right. Maybe if I choose the right restaurant. But other than that, I'm not right. But you know who is right? Coach Jimmy. And you know what Coach Jimmy does every single day? Is Coach Jimmy brings him closer and closer and closer to that understanding of what it is to be a young man, and same for my daughter's coach, what it is to be a young lady. And it's an immeasurable benefit to as a parent, to me as a parent. So I can tell you, I want, and we want our kids to be back in sports. We need our kids to be back in sports.
Great. And I think you made a good point. I mean, we've had folks involved in camps and sports, all summer, not necessarily tied to schools, but really there's no difference in doing that and then having it tied to schools. It's obviously good structure. It's very important in terms of giving them the opportunity. I know Mayor Curry can speak to that because obviously you're mayor of Jacksonville, but you're also a father. You've got kids who are, involved in these activities, and so speak to how you view the importance of sports and having those activities available for our kids.
Thank you, Governor. Yes, I fully agree with what you opened with, Governor, and that is that parents and kids ought to have the option for our boys and girls to participate in activities and sports. And the point's been made. It's real. I'll give you a few examples. They're going to organize and do it. My youngest daughter, who is into ballet and hip-hop and various forms of dance, they've been functioning throughout the summer. And in fact, with no problems, with no issues. And in fact, she just hit a big major milestone in ballet, which is a big deal for confidence. It's a big deal for kind of how she'll conduct and carry herself going forward to have accomplished that. There was a Wall Street Journal article out recently about during this pandemic how teens were staying up till 3 and 4 in the morning when their parents were asleep. Sleep schedules and structures all messed up. We experienced some of that. Since the beginning of June, my son, who's going into 10th grade, has been back in football camps. And guess what? Discipline on sleep, discipline on habits at home, all those have gotten back to where you would want someone to be as they're growing into a young man. When we came out of the safer at home orders, I have been consistently saying that without a vaccine, we've got to learn to live with this in a safe way. And it's incumbent upon us adults that are making these decisions to find a way to give parents and kids this choice. And I'll close with this. The coach that I had in high school, who ended up winning a bunch of championships in Tallahassee when he left, David Wilson, was my high school football coach. And the things that he taught me, the way that he rode me, the way that he treated me when I was down, I applied all of those skills to my academics in college, and I continue to apply those skills today to goal setting and getting things done. So I'm in support, and we've got to figure this out.
Great. And what's the prognosis for Duval County sports? Is that going to start when the Athletic Association has said? Do we know yet?
That's my expectation.
Good. Well, great. You guys have anything to add in terms of, from what you've heard? I think your comments have all been very well received, and it certainly resonated with me because, you do think about, and I think Coach Hall talked about the camaraderie, about people really wanting to be there with their coaches, with their fellow players, and that really means a lot, and it's a huge portion of our kids' development, and to make sure that we have those options, I think is absolutely critical. Obviously, as I said, for every Lito Shepherd or Charlie Ward, there are hundreds of players who aren't going to end up, at that level. But I think that the benefit of being able to compete is also very significant for those folks as well. So I definitely want the people that got that God-given talent are working real hard to go as far as they can with it, and that's very important. But also the folks who, maybe high school is the end of the road for them, but are able to participate under, discipline, teamwork, and be able to potentially, have some great memories that'll last a lifetime. Coach Hall, what's the prognosis for your team? You guys going to be good?
We'll be really good if we can get a chance. It will be really good. But can I add one thing?
Sure. Yeah.
And this is speaking on behalf of the male and female athletes, specifically the seniors. This year can change the trajectory of their life. We tell our kids all the time, they're in Live Oak, small town, look here, get out of Live Oak. If you want to come back one day and be productive here, and it's a great town. I came back. It's where I went to high school. I love it. But let's get out for a while. Go to college. Get your education. Go experience things. Meet people. There's a lot of my high school seniors right now that have a tremendous amount of talent, but they need exposure. They need the opportunity to get out and get on the field and put some film out there. And that's for every sport. So again, like it's been said up there, it is a choice. We need to give them the option. And we've told our parents from the first day, this is your choice to send your young man up here to play. That is a choice. And majority of them are going to send their kid up there to be in that structured environment. But this senior year specifically can really change a lot of lives and generations to come after that. We have D1 talent. We have guys that have really an opportunity to play at the next level, but without their senior season, those things are washed away. So those opportunities are gone. And so there needs to be an opportunity for these seniors specifically to get out and showcase what they've worked so hard for years and years before.
Any other final parting shots? Anybody? Lito?
Well, I mean, just to continue to piggyback on all the great suggestions and key pieces of advice. Sports is and will continue to be inspiration of hope for our communities. And when you take that hope away from our youth, from our communities that are feeling down through these times, I mean, you're really putting a dagger in a lot of our hearts in America. So just with that, I think hope is sports, and sports definitely gives the communities hope to keep moving.
Yeah.
I also want to just make sure that we know that this is a virus, and there are people who have lost their lives behind it. One of the things I can share personally is 2 years ago I had a stroke, and I was deemed healthy at the time of the stroke. But what the stroke did, I'm grateful that God continued to allow me to live my life. But what that stroke did and accomplished through me was I had to take an assessment of my life, of my health during that time. And one of the things that I know that has come up during the course of this pandemic is we have to take an assessment of our lives, our health, because that's very, very important. During that whole course of time when I had my stroke, I had to make some adjustments to my life. I started to eat differently. I also started exercising more. And I started taking an assessment of the things that I was doing as far as relieving stress. And so all those things have led me to become a better person, to understand what I needed to do to become healthier. And so hopefully during this time, we can educate ourselves on how we can become healthier, building our immune system so that we can fight a virus. And if we do catch the virus, how can we continue to treat the virus moving forward so that we can continue to be healthy? And so I just think, I know from my perspective as the head boys basketball coach at Florida High, I am working to put measures in place to be able to educate our student athletes so that they can become healthier individuals during this time. If we're not going to teach them how to eat, how to exercise, to do the things that can be long-term, help them long-term, then we're missing this opportunity to be able to educate our youth. And also not just the youth, but the parents as well, because our eating habits sometimes are not good. But that's one of the things I had to change was my eating habits so that I can have the best opportunity to have a healthy life.
That's great. And I think specifically with the coronavirus, I think that that's great advice. If you look at folks, particularly, I mean, we obviously know that this is an elevated risk for folks who are elderly, particularly those in long-term care facilities. But under, say, 50, the folks who tend to have complications or, unfortunately, fatal outcomes tend to be people that have underlying conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and morbid obesity is one of the common themes you talk to these physicians. And so by doing things, particularly if you're in the younger age groups, to get healthy, doing some of those things, that actually is probably some of the best defense you can have to the coronavirus. And obviously it's important far beyond just this, because there's so many other things in life, that are important if you're healthy and you're going to be better off. And the final thing I'll just say, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate, being able to have folks just talk about, the importance of athletics. I mean, I think that if you look, athletics is one of the great equalizers we have in our society. It doesn't necessarily matter what zip code you're from, how much money your parents make. If you have God-given talent, you work hard, you apply yourself, and you do well, people understand that, and they understand that whether it's football, basketball, these other sports, it's given a lot of people a lot of opportunity, over the years. And it's also something that tends to unify us in a difficult time. We've got all these different, people sniping each other all the time, it seems. Sports is kind of one of the great unifiers. Now, Florida State, that's necessarily unifying in our state, but you know what I mean. We're trying to, it's something that I think a lot of Floridians and Americans really appreciate. And I just say as governor, I look forward to maybe going to a game in Swanee this year. Look forward to seeing your boys play basketball. And I think that it's something that is really exciting if we can, get on track, make sure everyone's got opportunity. Obviously, this is just something you deal with, but I think just kind of hiding in the corner and pretending like, if we just hide long enough, it's just going to go away, that's not viable. And I think that would have a lot of negative ramifications for our boys and girls who really are passionate about their sports.